there are 6 tracks. Who would be racing and why? Who, if anyone, would not be racing? So there are 6 tracks. Who would be racing and why? Who, if anyone, would not be racing?
I'm going to eat on that one.
I guess I would like to point out that based on what I've seen so far, being born here, I see that we're talking about low-income housing. We are talking about our teachers, our police officers, firemen who cannot afford to live in town anymore. I look at that and see when we're talking about how the schools are being supported, teachers are being supported, that some of the teachers are coming 45 minutes away, an hour away. How does that give them enough time to actually give up some of their time freely to students? Because they're not in the community. And if we're not speaking about this and advocating for it, still goes back to not in my neighborhood. It becomes that we're getting more and more people who do love the fact that they can move to Amherst who are retiring. Does that bring more money towards our school system? It doesn't, because they don't have children in the school system. You see a lot of people who are taking their children out of the school system. So when we start talking about racing, yeah, I'm seeing that track, and I'm seeing some people are on the inside track, and there are some people who are on the outside track. And what can you do to bring those folks in? Because they're not, some of these folks cannot compete in the long run. And it's not making your community. So who would not be racing?
I want to...
Our children aren't racing at this point,
Right.
is what I feel.
If I may.
Of course.
I look at the racetrack, you have 6 tracks. Okay, first of all, the people that would be participating in the race would be people that would have some purpose or reason to be in the race. They have an agenda. You know, I want to be heard. You know, good, bad, or indifferent, I want to be heard. So I'm going to take track either 1 through 6. You know, so those to me would be the participants. You know, the people that would not be in the race would be either people that have no interest at all in change, or people that would be the supporters of those that are in the race. And so you have 2 different waves of attitudes that would be on the sideline. Those that are just not interested, it's none of my business, minding my business. You see that attitude everywhere as well. But you also see the attitude of, you know, Rand, you run, I'm going to support you. You know, so that would be somewhat of the audience of the sideline.
And I think there's it's a lot to discuss pertaining to, the values that we attribute to racing, the values that we attribute to having a voice, right? In some cultures, you only speak when you feel you have something to say, and people will listen. In other cultures, people feel that they have to be in control of the narrative and of the voices continuously. And that's a way of staying in the race or being ahead, etc. So I think it's, the diversity that we value, if we value it, where is the evidence of that, right? When you bring multiple cultures and multiple ways of thinking, we can't forget. So let me just give you an example. So we have families who come to us who believe that the education, it should be left for the educators and the schools. And they've been raised to believe that the schools have their children's best interest at hand, right? For some of us who have been in the race or have been in the system, we know that that's not necessarily how your children become successful, right? So we have this great, dichotomy, this great, divide. So we want to value culture, we want to value ways of thoughts, but then when you equate success, whatever that is, if we're going to attribute it to school or, success in life, there's a lot to talk about.
One of the questions about who's participating or not is who has access to participate. So there's the choice of participating, which is some of what you talked about, but also who just has the ability to participate. And there are a lot of impediments to that. As a white male, the doors are all open to me, generally speaking. So I can participate in whatever, in pretty much any circumstance, if I choose to. So my limitation is how much time and effort and energy and whatnot do I have to do that. I think that there are, sometimes the impediment to participating is less around, sort of race or gender or those types of things. It may be more around time, given people's economic circumstances, given the difficulty in which we structure those things that people participate in. I've had conversations around town meeting, and people say some people don't participate because it is so, long, and it's too many nights out of their house to be able to sort of sit and engage and participate in that active community process. But I think a lot of people choose to participate in their community in a lot of different ways. Some people volunteer at their church, or they coach a sports team for LSSE, or they volunteer at the Survival Center or whatever. So there's a lot of ways to be participatory in the race and a lot of different mechanisms. I don't think all of them are as equally open as they could be.
Right.
And I think it's imperative of those that are within the structures or in the race to try to build and create circumstances where more people can participate or understand the process, understand the cultural differences about, you speak up when it's important to, and you let it be the rest of the time. It's difficult. Some people, it's an emotional thing as to why they feel they need to talk or participate in certain things. And so that's why they want to engage, is to feel like they have some sense of control. Others don't feel the need to seek control in that way. What I have often said at teams I've coached and kids and that sort of thing is I've never learned anything when I'm talking.
Correct.
Because when
That's
you're doing
exactly
output,
right.
you can't take any, to learn you got to take stuff in. And so when I'm quiet and listening and seeing, then I'm able to learn more. And so so creating opportunities for folks that have positions of influence or are in the active participation circumstances, members of town meeting, members of the select board, finance committee, whatever, school boards, that sort of thing. I think it's imperative for them to give opportunity to listen, to hear what people say. But I think it's also imperative of those that are wanting to say something to do it in a way that is positive and is capable and impactful. So it's it has some sense of context, and it's not wholly and exclusively to the banishment of all other things about their thing. It understands the broader context, but a lot of times people want to be heard, and if you give them an opportunity to be heard, even if there's disagreement, that respectful listening is a powerful thing, and it gets more people involved. It creates more lanes in your racetrack, as it were, if you can allow that to happen. And I think that what is necessary for us as a community is an ongoing thing, because things change around us. We don't sit in isolation. We like to think sometimes we do, but so much around us changes all the time, and we have to be responsive to that and understand that our culture around us changes. So it's important that we continue to evolve those things, to keep people engaged, people getting more people access, or at least an ability to participate in whatever way they can and feel heard and to broaden everyone's perspective and understanding.
So when you say giving people access, who gives access?
Well, that's the thing. It's currently, those that are in control. It's, if you think about sort of, for example, school, they have public comment first 10 minutes or whatever. And partly because they're working meetings, they have to have, they have to strike a balance between how much, but it's also imperative for them to allow other opportunities, other forums, let people speak, talk to particular issues that, are big, for example, when the school district closed the Marks Meadow Elementary School, they had several forums to let people talk about it. Now, I think the key piece in that circumstance that's difficult is I think a lot of people came to those meetings, felt that the school was closed and I'm just here venting my frustration.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes the process a little less genuine. So I think that's the difficulty too, is that as for those groups that have impact, like a school committee or a select board or whatever, town meeting, you have to engage the conversation earlier before the decisions are made to get the feedback you need to make the decisions.
Yeah.
And that's hard to do.
I think it's really hard to do, and I've seen in this community, it's often hard to do respectfully. And when you put yourself out in this community and you and take a stand or want to represent, you got to be careful because you're going to offend somebody, or you're going to really upset another group, and you're going to be on somebody's blog being talked about, and all of a sudden your name is dirt in a whole within a whole community, or were misunderstood. I mean, it can take somebody out of the race just because they don't want to be, rather just enjoy the race going on and sort of be on the sidelines and take advantage of whatever's available here. Okay, we have some nice restaurants, a pretty good school system, and I don't want to be involved because when I am involved, I'm going to get flack from this neighbor or that neighbor, or this community is going to judge me. We tend to be, as liberal and open as we profess to be in Amherst, we tend to be very judgmental and finger pointing and very, very, very quickly, which surprised me actually.
Point taken. I've been there. I've decided not to run for school committee, not
Really?
to run for select board. Being someone who's been here and my family's been here for a good, say, about 60 years, it's hard to see that and have to not worry that someone is going to destroy your property or say something about you online or even my children in school. So it has prevented me from doing a lot of things, which I feel bad about. But this is the culture that has arisen here in Amherst. And people are very free to say things to me because they obviously look at the skin of my color of my skin and say, oh, those people in Amherst. Or they talk about Amherst. And the point is well taken because they feel as if they can say stuff to me about it. But it is, it's a difficult choice to make. But based on that, I have kept idle support behind the scenes. But personally, I have basically dropped out of that.
That's what I was talking about earlier in my description. Yeah.
I think, I don't know, from after hearing the question, I interpreted it a slightly different way. I sort of, you were talking about access, and you were talking about spectators, and I want to sort of combine those two ideas. When I imagine a race, I imagine it being a rat race, like something that's not productive. And to have access, for me, it reminds me of the gladiators. Like putting people in to sort of race, but they don't actually have the power. And so a spectator could be a supporter, but I guess in the metaphor that I'm talking about, the spectator could be the manipulator, the controller, what's going on. And they have access by like deciding when they want to get into the racetrack or making rules. Like the referee almost. And enjoying the other people who don't have as much money or have darker skin or whatever, sort of race with each other for the power that in actuality they don't really have. So I don't know. That's what I was thinking about.
That was good.
So in your interpretation, the way I'm hearing it is the ones who are racing are the ones who are kind of disenfranchised without power, and the ones who aren't racing are the ones who are manipulating, the ones who have the power to do that.
In some ways, but I also think that the people who are spectators, that's why the racetrack is a good metaphor, because spectators at if we were at this track at our school could just walk right onto the racetrack. Like I think that there are times when people who have in this community, and I've witnessed this through like parents of my friends, especially in what's happened the past couple of years here while I've been in high school, who have access to things and they'll defend and they'll jump into the racetrack to say like, no, don't do this. But then they won't actually, but they don't have to participate in the race if they don't want to. They have enough that they can sort of go on their merry way.
Privilege.
But, it's privilege. So it's not a stadium. It's a very thin line. But I think there are some who are free, or at least there's sometimes people within the race don't realize that they're free to walk out of it, but other people have more freedom to walk that line. Yeah,
that's good.
I wish I could say that all of us are racing instead of this one or that one or those people or those people. But the truth is we are not all racing, and what defines it more likely is socioeconomic status and not accepting that. That's why we are not all racing. But I wish there comes a point in Amos that we say, we as Amos racing, I don't think it's the point yet.
And again, and I agree with what you're saying, and at the same time, there's some people who don't want to race.
Yeah.
There's some people who value not racing or value not speaking until they really feel they have something to say.
And they don't have to.
Exactly.
They can equally well support a system which is already there
Exactly.
and make it stronger.
Exactly.
But we are leaving some people behind, or knowingly we know that we can provide them some strength and they can be in the race. We are not able to at this point. And I don't even want to touch the diversity because I don't know whom I'm going to offend by saying that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to touch the word diversity one. But yes, it is needed though.
One of the things when we talk about manipulating the race is something that I do see, because certain things become very sexy to give to, very sexy to support. But really, when it comes down to it, it's just superficial. It's not really doing anything, and you are just manipulating it for your own grandeur and your own agenda, but not really looking deep under there to see whatever. It to me, that's a problem. So it is manipulative in that sense. Who is in the race? I didn't think about it the way you were saying it, but looking at it that way, it is a manipulative situation.
If I may, so I can answer that real quick. I understand that, and I'm with you 150% on that. My experience to support that is like I notice how sometimes, like in the Amherst newspaper, they have a tendency to like put on different businesses on front page, that and the third. I've been a black business owner in this town for 16 years. Okay, with Global Cuts, I've never been on no page of any newspaper in this town, and people don't even know I even exist, except the ones that come there. But I've seen, like a lot of white barbershops on front pages of newspapers, and in their opinion matters. It's like, wow, what happened to Global Cuts? We've been here for a long time too. We got stake in this community.
So it is. It is about race. It is about race, and I know some people don't want to talk about it, but it is about race. It's about race. I'm not saying it's the most important. I don't think but there are all of these. Who are the people manipulating the narrative, manipulating everything? So I think, do we feel comfortable? Can we have a forum in which we can discuss whatever it is that we believe matters? Right? Right? Versus like what you were saying, just touching on the surface or just talking about something just because. I think, or talking about someone or for someone. It's just,
So the 1970s and 80s, here was totally different. We moved back because of the transient mood that is there. So I guess for me, I'd like to see that come back, where people weren't really looking at you from the color of your skin. And yes.
But I would say that I was here in school in the 70s, in this high school, and my family was one of very, very few Latino families, very, very few, and we took a lot of grief. And we had a lot of hard times. So I'm just saying that I agree, and I'm thankful that happened to your family. For my family, we came here, 1974, and it was very, very bad.
Really?
For our transition, even though my parents came here for grad school, we were poor and we were discriminated against big time.